Hello, my name is Samantha. I'm 29 years old, and all of this happened at the very tail end of my third decade, right before I was about to cross over into 30. Yes, that big 3-0 looming on the horizon of life like a monumental and inevitable milestone. The age when everyone tells you in unison that it's time to start living life to the fullest, to stand tall, and to finally find that elusive meaning. Or, at least, that's what everyone around me tirelessly repeats, from relatives to random acquaintances on social media. I work as a software developer at a large tech company whose glass towers soar in the heart of the city. My position isn't adorned with grand titles, but it provides a stable and quite decent income, which allowed me to make a major adult purchase 2 years ago, to buy my own apartment, albeit with a substantial mortgage. I've been laboring within these walls for almost 6 years now, day after day, poring over lines of complex code, fixing pesky bugs, and developing new features. That's my reality, an ordinary, technical, predictable life. As a child, I was always that girl with her hand raised, the exemplary and responsible one. Good, almost impeccable grades, a complete absence of reprimands or notes in my school diary, strict adherence to what was expected. My younger sister, Emma, who is 5 years younger than me, on the contrary, always existed in a different coordinate system. She's 24 now, and from the moment she was born, she was that younger child for whom, it seems, different rules apply. All her antics were seen as cute mischief, and her wishes were granted as if by magic. But I never held a grudge, or at least I tried not to, until very recently. My parents, Linda and Robert, are the most typical suburban couple. My father has worked in sales for many years, and my mom works part-time as an administrator at a local dental clinic. We weren't rich, but we never knew need. Just an ordinary middle-class family standing firmly on our own 2 feet. They still live 40 minutes away from my home in that same brick house with the ever-blooming petunias in the flower beds where Emma and I spent our entire childhood. Emma herself, by the way, still lives with them, having found neither the strength nor the desire to move out after college. 2 weeks before my birthday, I was sitting in the silence of my living room, thinking about how to mark this milestone. I didn't want a noisy gathering with dozens of barely familiar faces. I dreamed of something intimate, truly personal, where only the closest, my family, would gather around the table. And then I remembered that place we often went to when I was a child, Giovanni's, a small, cozy Italian restaurant that seems to have been around forever, with its scent of garlic, basil, and old wood. Their chicken parmesan has been the embodiment of celebration for me since I turned 10. We celebrated all the important events there, graduations, birthdays, the end of the school year, and now it felt incredibly right to return there, to the origins. So I picked up the phone and dialed my mom's number. The line rang several times before I heard her voice. "Hello, dear, is something wrong?" she asked, a slight distraction in her tone. In the background, I could hear the muffled voice of a TV announcer. "Hi, Mom. I wanted to discuss my birthday with you," I began. "I thought we could all go to dinner at Giovanni's. Just us. You, Dad, Emma, and me. I'll book a table for 6 p.m. on Saturday, the 14th. "Of course, dear," came the immediate but utterly flat reply. "Sounds lovely. We'll be there." And that was it. Not a hint of excitement, not a drop of joy, just a statement of fact. "Oh, thank you," I exhaled. "That's great." I tried to convince myself that she was just tired or preoccupied, trying not to read too much into her tone. After hanging up, I sent Emma a short message. "Hey, organizing a birthday dinner at Giovanni's on the 14th at 6. You in?" The reply came almost instantly. "Yeah, sure, I'll be there." Again, no emotion, just a dry, concise confirmation. Nevertheless, I booked a table for 4, feeling a strange but persistent sense of confidence that I was doing the right thing, that this evening would be simple and filled with quiet family meaning. The following 2 weeks, I spent on a leisurely search for a suitable outfit, and finally settled on an elegant dress of a deep navy blue, which wasn't ostentatiously luxurious, but clearly stood out from my everyday clothes. It cost more than I usually allowed myself to spend on clothing, but I found a justification. 30 only happens once in a lifetime, right? I got a haircut and even splurged on a salon manicure, nurturing the hope not just to look good that evening, but to truly immerse myself in the feeling. Work during those 2 weeks left me no opportunity for boredom or idle contemplation. And looking back, I realized it was for the best. My team was pushing hard to meet deadlines for a major project, and I spent my evenings in the dim glow of the monitor, immersed in endless lines of code. Colleagues, knowing about the approaching date, constantly asked about my plans, and I, with a slight smile, told them about the modest family dinner. Everyone found it touching and sweet that, while crossing such a milestone, I preferred quiet and the company of my closest ones. On the birthday itself, I woke up with an uncharacteristically light and joyful feeling. Outside was a clear, spring-like warm Saturday for mid-March. The morning flew by with unhurried chores, leisurely cleaning, laundry, creating that very coziness you cherish in your own home. Around 3 o'clock, I started getting ready, turning the process into a sort of ritual. A long, relaxing shower, careful makeup, and finally, the touch of the new dress's silky fabric. Catching my reflection in the mirror, I thought with mild surprise that 30 definitely suited me. I arrived at Giovanni's about 10 minutes early. The elderly hostess sitting at the front desk recognized me, and that small detail caused a pleasant wave of warmth. She led me to a window table, already set for 4. The air in the room was thick and exciting, filled with the aromas of garlic, ripe tomatoes, and freshly baked bread. I settled into the chair, ordered a glass of red wine, and sank into pleasant anticipation. 6 p.m. came and went. There was no sign of my family. I mechanically checked my phone. No new messages, no missed calls. Strange flashed through my mind. Probably just stuck in traffic. Saturday evening, roads are jammed. However, by 6:15, mild bewilderment gave way to anxiety. I dialed my mom's number. The phone rang for a long, hopeless time until the indifferent voice of the answering machine sounded on the other end. Then I tried my father, the same story. Then Emma, 0 result. I sent a short message to our family group chat. "Hey, I'm already at the restaurant. Guys, where are you?" The response was only deafening silence. The waiter, that same Tony who seemed to have worked here forever, approached my table. "Maybe, while waiting for the other guests, you'd like to order an appetizer?" he asked politely. But in his gaze I read, with painful clarity, genuine pity. For me, sitting alone at a table for 4. No thank you," I tried to smile. "I think I'll wait a bit longer." By 6:30, anxiety had morphed into outright panic. The worst thoughts crept into my head. An accident. A mishap. I called my mom again. No answer. Sent another message, and this time my words carried an outright plea. "Mom, I'm starting to get really worried. Please, just let me know you're all okay." Minutes passed. The other guests, absorbed in their conversations and laughter, began to steal sympathetic glances at me. I felt them like light pricks and wanted to sink through the floor from humiliation. The woman who got stood up on her own birthday. Tony approached again. "Miss Samantha, is everything all right? Can I get you anything?" I almost burned with shame. My family seems to be very delayed. I'm sure they'll be here any moment." But the very moment those phrases left my lips, I realized with a soul-chilling clarity, something was wrong. They could be distracted, busy, but all 3 of them not answering, not warning me, that was abnormal. Finally, at 7:30, after an hour and a half of agonizing waiting, the phone vibrated in my palm. A message from Mom. My heart skipped a beat. I frantically opened it, anticipating explanations about monstrous traffic jams or a sudden emergency that would justify everything. But what I read made my stomach clench into a tight, painful knot. "Very sorry, dear. We're at the mall helping Emma pick out a dress for her birthday next month. Lost track of time. Happy birthday." I reread those lines 3 times, as if hoping the letters would rearrange into a different, meaningful text. They were out shopping, picking out a dress for Emma's birthday, which was a full 4 weeks away. I sat in the empty restaurant, at a table set for a celebration that had crumbled to dust. and felt a storm raging in my chest. As I sat alone at this dinner for my own 30th birthday, which I had organized and booked 2 weeks prior, a furious, bitter speech was born within me. I wanted to pour everything out on them, all the accumulated resentment, all the pain from this blatant betrayal, this total neglect. I wanted to scream that this was the worst thing they could have done to me. My fingers convulsively gripped the phone, hovering over the keyboard, ready to unleash this stream of venom. But I couldn't, as if some invisible barrier stood between me and the screen. Instead, I put the phone aside and gestured for Tony. "Could you pack up what I ordered? To go, please," I said, and my voice sounded unnaturally quiet and even, as if I were making a tremendous effort to hold back a tremble. "Of course, Miss Samantha. Is everything all right? Family emergency?" he asked solicitously. "They couldn't make it," I lied, unable to utter the monstrous truth aloud. He just nodded sympathetically and disappeared backstage. I had ordered 4 main courses earlier in the day in anticipation of our modest celebration. Now I was facing a whole week of eating the leftovers of my shattered party. Paying the bill, I left a generous tip, gratitude for his silent compassion and for sparing me further questions. The hostess, seeing me off, wished me happy birthday again, but I just nodded silently, afraid that any sound would unleash uncontrollable sobs. The drive home passed in a vague haze. I turned off the radio and drove in tomb-like silence, pierced only by the intrusive, chaotic noise of my thoughts. Reaching the apartment, I mechanically shoved the bags of food into the refrigerator and sank onto the sofa. And then, in the absolute silence of my solitary dwelling, it overwhelmed me. Tears streamed down, not quiet, peaceful ones, but awful, body-racking sobs that turned my soul inside out and drained me of all strength. Because it wasn't just about that evening. It was about everything. Memories surfaced like fresh wounds. My school soccer championship, which they missed because of Emma's dance recital. My college graduation ceremony, to which they were 45 minutes late because they had to drive Emma to a friend's first. The party for my promotion last year, which they didn't attend because Emma had a cold and Mom didn't want to leave her alone. She was 23 years old and had a common cold. But I always found excuses for them, convinced myself that I was too sensitive, that they loved us equally. But to miss my 30th birthday, to go shopping for a dress for Emma's 25th, which was a month away, that was a whole different final level. The last straw. That's it. I understood. My phone was blowing up with congratulations from friends and colleagues, but I ignored them all. I couldn't even pretend to be happy. Only after 3 days did I feel composed enough to face the world again. Jessica texted, asking how the dinner went, and a few other colleagues. I dryly replied that the family had an unforeseen circumstance, and we postponed the celebration. I wouldn't have told them the truth for anything. "Hey, let's celebrate properly," Jessica insisted, cornering me in the office on Wednesday. "Drinks at Murphy's on Friday." Murphy's was that dive bar near work where everyone went for happy hour. Not fancy, but cozy in its own way. "Yeah, okay, sounds good," I agreed. That Friday, about 10 of us colleagues crammed into a spacious booth in the noisy pub. We drank simple beer, exchanged silly jokes, and they sang happy birthday to me as I blew out a candle on a modest supermarket cupcake. And it was surprisingly perfect. No pressure, no expectations, just simple, genuine emotions and good company. "This is so much better than some stuffy family dinner," Jessica declared confidently after her 3rd pint. I laughed, and there was relief in that laughter. You have no idea how right you are. 2 weeks after my birthday had ingloriously sunk into oblivion, I was working from home, immersed in debugging a complex algorithm, when my phone vibrated on the desk. A message glowed on the screen. It was from Mom, in that same family chat that had been silent all this time. I barely resisted the urge to immediately push it away, but a bitter, acrid curiosity took over. "Join us for our Emma's 25th birthday celebration," the text read. "April 11th, Grandview Ballroom. Contribution, $2,000 per person. Please send via Venmo by April 1st. Can't wait to celebrate our girl's birth." I reread those lines 5 times, as if not believing my own eyes. $2,000. They lost their minds? And this formality, this impersonal tone, like a mass mailing for casual acquaintances, not an address to me, their eldest daughter. She didn't even deem it necessary to send me a personal message. Rage boiled up in my chest, so swift and all-consuming that I couldn't sit still. I started pacing the apartment like a caged animal, muttering incoherent words of indignation under my breath. $2,000. After they couldn't even grace me with their presence? Is this a joke? On autopilot, I opened the Venmo app, found my mother's account. For a moment, the thought of ignoring this brazen demand flashed. But then another, much more fitting idea was born. I sent her a transfer of $10, accompanying it with a concise note. The best and only gift for you. After which, without a second's delay, I took my phone and methodically, with cold resolve, blocked them all. Mom, Dad, Emma. Phone numbers, Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp accounts, everything. If they wanted to treat me like I was invisible, well, from now on, I didn't exist for them. The next morning, I called the locksmith. When he arrived, I clearly explained that I wanted the locks on my front door completely replaced. 2 years ago, when I first moved into this apartment, I had naively given my parents a spare set of keys, just in case, for peace of mind. Now, I was immensely glad to be rid of that backup option forever. 2 days later, worn out by homesickness and a bad cold, I was working, wrapped in a blanket on the sofa. Being a software developer had at least one undeniable plus. I could work from anywhere, as long as I had a laptop and a stable internet connection. And then there was a knock. Loud, insistent, demanding, making me start and spill tea on my keyboard. My heart began to race. I crept to the window and carefully parted the blinds. There they were, all 3 of them, Mom, Dad, and Emma, lined up as if they were the rightful owners here. Mom was feverishly rummaging in her voluminous bag, and I knew perfectly well what she was looking for, those spare keys. Well, good luck with that, Linda. I heard the metal grating unpleasantly as it tried to turn in the new lock's cylinder. Then my father's irritated voice. "It's not working. Try again." Another grating sound. And then Mom started yelling, "Samantha, open this door right now. We know you're in there. Your car's in the parking lot." I remained silent, pressing my forehead against the cool wall. "This is insane," Emma screeched. "You're acting like a complete child. $10. Seriously? You embarrassed us in front of everyone." Embarrassed them. That was the main thing. "Samantha Marie Henderson, if you don't open this door, there will be consequences," Mom threatened. Consequences? What was she going to do? Scold me? Take away my dessert? I was 30 years old. I had my own apartment, my own life. I put on my noise-canceling headphones and returned to debugging code, drowning out their voices with a steady hum. They fussed at the door for another 20 minutes before giving up. I watched as they, angry, retreated to their car. Mom was gesticulating furiously, no doubt complaining about her ungrateful, disobedient daughter. Emma's birthday passed for me in a fog of detachment. But I couldn't help myself. Late in the evening, I temporarily unblocked her Instagram account to take a quick look at the photos. I needed to see how their grand, exorbitantly expensive party had gone. The Grandview Ballroom, captured in dozens of photos, indeed seemed huge, dazzling with gold trim and pink helium balloons. Renting such a pompous place must have cost them a fortune. But there was one striking detail. In that vast, empty space, capable of holding hundreds of guests, there were maybe 15 people. My parents, Emma, and a few other solitary figures. The hall looked thunderously empty. The birthday girl's smile in all the shots was strained, painfully fake, and Mom and Dad's faces were tense. I took a few screenshots, capturing this dismal spectacle, and blocked their accounts again, as if slamming a heavy door shut. That same evening, my cousin Jake called. We'd always gotten along since childhood, and his call was a breath of fresh air. "Samantha, what the hell happened at your sister's party?" he blurted out, not even saying hello. "Your mom asked for $2,000 each. My mom called her, said it was insane, and yours basically said, 'Don't come if you can't.'" I couldn't help but laugh. "Good for you, Aunt Patricia." "Then your mom called the rest of the relatives," Jake continued. "Turns out your parents told everyone the same thing. Pay up or don't come." So nobody came. Well, except for Uncle Terry and Aunt Susan. But they're loaded. $2,000 is pocket change for them. "But seriously, what's going on?" he asked. "Your mom's telling everyone you're having a nervous breakdown." I didn't hold back and told Jake the whole story. About the forgotten dinner, about shopping for Emma, about all those years of quiet neglect. He was silent on the line for a long time. "That's awful, Samantha. Just awful." 2 days later, I got a call from Aunt Marie, Mom's younger sister, who had been at that ill-fated party. "Samantha, dear, we need to talk," she said softly. "If you're calling to persuade me to apologize, don't even start," I parried. No, I'm calling because your mom is telling everyone you're having mental health issues. She claims you didn't come to the party out of jealousy for the fancy venue." "Did she tell you why I'm really not talking to them?" I asked. "She said you're just being dramatic over some misunderstanding." "Misunderstanding?" I exclaimed. "Aunt Marie, they didn't come to my 30th birthday. Instead, they went shopping for a dress for Emma." And I told her the whole humiliating story once again. After listening, Aunt Marie was silent for a moment. I didn't know. Your mom didn't mention your birthday at all." "Oh dear, I'm sorry. Let me talk to her." A week passed. I was buried in work, trying to finish an important project, when the reception desk called. "Samantha, you have guests in the lobby." Everything inside me went cold. I went downstairs, and they were there. Mom with a resolute, stony face. Dad, embarrassed, not knowing where to look. "This is just ridiculous," Mom announced loudly, causing a few colleagues to turn around. "You're ignoring your own family. You've blocked us everywhere. This isn't normal." "Mom, lower your voice," I hissed through my teeth, feeling the heat of shame spread across my cheeks. "She needs professional help," Dad declared to the entire lobby. "This irrational behavior needs to stop." The security guard started looking at us uneasily. "There's a cafe across the street," I said quietly but clearly. "We can talk there." We had barely settled at a corner table in the half-empty cafe when Mom, not one to beat around the bush, launched her offensive. "You've completely lost your mind, Samantha, and it's time to end this absurd hysterics," she stated, her eyes flashing. "Hysterics?" I couldn't hold back. "You neglected my 30th birthday to go shopping with Emma." "It was an unfortunate misunderstanding. We simply forgot," she dismissed. "Forgot?" My voice trembled. "I called you 2 weeks ago. We discussed it. How can you forget something like that?" "Well, Emma's birthday was more important," Mom retorted coldly. 25 is a quarter of a century, a milestone, and 30 means nothing. Here, my father chimed in, looking at me with poorly concealed irritation. "You've always been too sensitive, Samantha. Always. Remember how you cried because we were late for your graduation?" "You were a whole hour late," I exclaimed, feeling the old pain come alive. "I had to sit alone and watch all the other families congratulate their children." "We had important matters," Mom said dismissively. "Emma had a doctor's appointment scheduled." "An appointment that could have been rescheduled for any other day," I exhaled. "You're just obsessed with this favoritism." "It's all in your head," she cut me off. "You need proper therapy." My patience snapped. I took out my phone and started reading out a long, bitter list. All the soccer matches, science fairs, college award ceremonies, and my work presentations they had ignored or been late for. Then I listed all of Emma's events, every dance recital, every cheerleading competition, the school play where she had 2 lines, which they invariably attended. "You're keeping score," Mom said with disgust. "That's unhealthy." "I've had enough," I stated, standing up. "If you don't stop harassing me, I will get a restraining order." Mom threw up her hands. "You wouldn't dare." "Try and stop me. I don't want to see you, hear from you, or know about you until you admit you acted horribly wrong. Not just made a mistake, but followed an ugly, long-standing pattern of neglecting me. I left them at the table and returned to the office, feeling my hands tremble slightly. 3 months have passed since then. 3 peaceful, quiet months. I've thrown myself into work, socialized with friends, and even started dating a nice guy from the gym. Life is surprisingly calm when you're not expecting a constant stab in the back from your own family. Aunt Marie became my involuntary source of family news. She would drop by every couple of weeks, invariably bringing homemade apple pie. Your mom's latest excuse is that you're just having a prolonged growing up period, she informed me one Sunday afternoon at my kitchen table. Marie also relayed unexpected news. It turned out Mom had taken up baking again, something she hadn't done for years, and was sending these pies through her sister in the hope that I would soften. I ate those pies. They were delicious, but nothing inside me shifted. She's trying, Samantha, Marie gently urged. She really is. Or is she just upset that I stopped playing the role assigned to me? I countered. One morning, as I was sorting through work emails, the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone, so I went and looked through the peephole. 2 police officers stood on the landing. My heart sank and began to beat in an anxious rhythm. Did something happen to someone? Flashed through my head. I opened the door. Can I help you? Are you Samantha Henderson? Asked the taller officer. We received a request for a welfare check from your parents. They claim you haven't been in contact for several weeks and are concerned for your safety. I barely held back a bitter, hysterical laugh. A welfare check. Seriously, officer? My voice sounded sharp with bitter irony. I am perfectly fine. As you can see, I am completely healthy and of sound mind. I blocked my parents after a serious family conflict. They know perfectly well why I'm not in contact. They already staged a similar scene at my workplace last month. The shorter officer seemed to understand the situation. Family disputes. Unfortunately, we get these calls often. We'll inform them you are safe, but if they continue to abuse emergency services, they may face penalties. Very glad to hear that, I replied, barely containing a tremor of indignation. After they left, I felt only a chilling fury. They had tried to force my attention by using the police. It was a new moral low. 2 weeks later, while I was immersed in work, Jessica came to my desk with an extremely embarrassed look. Samantha, your parents are in the lobby again. Security is asking if they should escort them out, but they are making a scene. I went downstairs, feeling complete exhaustion from this endless drama, even before seeing them. Mom, of course, was heatedly arguing with the security guard, and Dad was standing apart, his face expressing the deepest embarrassment. There she is, Mom announced triumphantly to the entire hall. My daughter, who thinks she's too good for her own family. Ma'am, you need to leave the building, the guard said firmly. I'm not leaving until she talks to us like a normal, decent person, she almost shouted back. You want to talk like normal people? I said coldly. Normal people don't ambush their adult children at work. Normal people show up for birthdays they promise to attend. You are being completely unreasonable, Dad declared loudly. Everyone can see you need psychological help. At that moment, my boss David appeared in the lobby. Perfect. Just great. Samantha, he said quietly but insistently, take the rest of the day off. Sort this out. Without looking at my parents, I grabbed my bag and headed for the exit. If you want to talk, follow me. We ended up in that same cafe again. The waitress, recognizing us, retreated anxiously into the depths of the hall. Say what you wanted, I said, not even glancing at the menu. You're destroying this family, Mom started right off. No, I countered. I'm protecting myself from this family. From what? We love you, she exclaimed. Love? You have a very funny way of showing it. Let me ask you something. My voice became quieter but clearer. What did I study in university? Mom fell silent, perplexed. What? What major did I study for 4 years? Computers. Something with computers, she guessed uncertainly. Computer science with a minor in mathematics. And Emma? Communications and theater arts. You see, you know everything about Emma, but you can't even remember what I dedicated 4 years of my life to. That doesn't mean anything, my father tried to interject. What's my favorite color? They looked at each other in complete confusion. Emma's is pink, I continued. Does that seem like a small thing to you? To me, it's not. To me, it's proof that you never truly saw me. You were always just responsible, Mom tried to justify, but her voice wavered. You didn't need as much attention. Emma was younger. She needed more care. That's not true, I whispered, and tears glistened in her eyes. When Emma didn't get the lead role in the school play, you called the director and lectured her for an hour. And when I didn't make the university soccer team, you just said, "Try harder next time." Those were completely different situations, Dad repeated with familiar ease. How? Explain to me. How were they different? They couldn't. They simply couldn't find an answer. Here's what happens next, I said, standing up. I will continue living my life without you. Maybe someday, if you find the strength within yourself to acknowledge not only the deep wound you inflicted by leaving me alone in the restaurant on my 30th birthday, but also all that long-standing, invisible to the world pain that accumulated in me since childhood, we might be able to try to start over, to build a fragile bridge across the chasm of misunderstanding and resentment. But until that bitter realization happens, I beg you, leave me alone. Give me the space to breathe freely without your reproaches and demands. Samantha, please, my mother's voice trembled, and I heard tears in it. We're family. No, I will no longer humbly beg for that drop of attention that is my due. I am no longer willing to settle for the role of an extra in the background of my own life. The eternal, reliable rock against which the waves of concern for Emma break. Enough. Said. Decided. I turned and walked out of the cafe, leaving them sitting at the table, leaving the burdensome explanations and futile attempts to get through in the past. 6 months have passed since that day. Aunt Marie, my faithful informant and involuntary peacemaker, reported that my parents had finally started seeing a family therapist specializing in favoritism and distorted family dynamics. She said that in one session, Mom, through tears, admitted that they had indeed failed to see me for years, taken my reliability for granted because I never complained or caused trouble. After that session, according to Marie, she cried for a whole hour, realizing the depth of her blind neglect. She said she can't believe how much she missed in your life while you were right there, my aunt relayed delicately. Good, I replied, and in that word there was no gloating, no triumph, only a quiet hope that perhaps, somewhere in them, the seeds of real understanding had begun to sprout. Emma, it turned out, had moved out from their place last month, found a job, and rented her own apartment. Mom, according to Marie, was taking this departure hard. Her chick had left the nest, and she was at a loss. She wanted to text you about it, my aunt added, but I persuaded her not to. You'll reach out to each other when you're truly ready. Sometimes, especially on holidays or when something joyful happens at work, I'm seized by an acute, almost instinctive longing for them, and my hand reaches for the phone to call Mom. But then memory resurrects that very picture. Me, alone, at the table in Giovanni's, with the chicken parmesan cooling on the table. And that memory, like ice-cold water, extinguishes the impulse. I, too, started seeing a therapist. I decided that if I was so quick to accuse others of needing to sort themselves out, I should look into my own soul as well. It turned out I had plenty to work on. My perpetual responsibility, my drive for perfection, the role of the convenient girl who never makes trouble. All of it was a shell hiding a vulnerable soul. You were invisible to them, my therapist told me. You learned early that being perfect meant being safe, that being alone was less painful than experiencing disappointment over and over again. Acknowledging that was excruciatingly painful. But now I can say, I'm doing well. I have loyal friends, interesting work, my small but cozy apartment now securely protected from unexpected visits. My relationship with Marcus, that guy from the gym, is getting more serious, and I watch with astonishment his ordinary, healthy family, which always comes through when they promise. For me, it's a revelation. Maybe someday I'll talk to my parents again. Maybe, after doing immense internal work, they'll be able to acknowledge not just a single misdeed, but the entire toxic system of our relationship. Maybe Emma and I will someday have a sisterly relationship, unburdened by the eternal roles of the responsible one and the little one. Or maybe not. Perhaps this is exactly how things are meant to be right now. And you know what? I'm okay with that. Because for the first time in my entire life, I'm not languishing in anxious anticipation of them finally seeing me, appreciating me, understanding me. Now I see myself. And that is enough.